When the Odysseus space lander touched down on the moon last week, not only was it a historic first for a private craft, but also a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for hundreds of artists. On board a time capsule filled with countless digitized pieces of fashion, music, and pop culture. One of those artists whose creations will live on the moon is fashion designer Dalia MacPhee. She joins us now live from LA. Good morning, Dalia. How are you?
I'm over the moon.
I like that. Well, Dalia, the Lunaprise Moon Museum mission is the world's first capsule and museum. What made you want to apply to be one of the 222 artists whose work is in this capsule?
Well, actually, they approached me, which was quite amazing. They had kind of heard about some of the innovation that I was doing. Aside from fashion, I was creating some inventions for animals. And so they had approached and said, we'd like to include you, which, when you hear that, I mean, it's kind of a little surreal. You kind of double take and go, excuse me, the moon? But of course, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I said yes. So, and there we are. We landed successfly. And it's just quite incredible, to be honest.
What's your inspiration behind the pictures we're seeing right now?
Well, I'm a huge lover of animals, and I'm a huge lover of problem solving. So, as an example, one of the items that was included in the archive was a fully fire retardant horse blanket with GPS that I created. And they say necessity is the mother of all invention. So that was created as a solution to my own horse, who was affected by the wildfires a few years ago. And the stables were about to catch fire, and the fire department literally said, set the horses loose or hose them down so they burn slower. And so I got to creating that blanket that you just saw, which is the EquiSafe blanket, fully fire retardant horse blanket with GPS. And over the past 5 years, I've created just a number of inventions for animals. I love animals, and I feel like we're in this age of technology, and we should be applying what we have as humans for them.
So I want to mention your designs aren't physically on board, they are digital, but how did you go about selecting the pieces you would include in this?
Well, so it's actually, just so you know, it's digital, and there's also an analog version, which is inscriptions on thin pieces of metal, which is quite incredible. They can be viewed with the naked eye. And there's 16 levels of this on the spacecraft. For the fashion parts, I picked really three groups. One was what you're looking at right now, which is a return to flight. It was right after COVID. And I felt like there was a great connection between this and the Odysseus mission. I also chose the Superwoman campaign and a beautiful underwater campaign. And the reason I chose that was because the background and the zero gravity feeling reminds me of space. And then the other group, which the curators selected, were innovation and inventions that I had created. So there was the fire blanket for horses. There was also a life jacket for horses and livestock, insulated blankets for baby rhinos and elephants that are poaching victims. During COVID, I created an antiviral wallet that disinfects KN95 masks because there was a shortage. So it's also quite interesting because it tells a story, and billions of years from now, if someone were to look, they would also be able to see what was happening on the planet at that time, which I think is part of the preservation.
And Dalia, you had the opportunity to witness the launch at the Kennedy Space Center with the capsule containing your work on board. What was that like?
It was incredible. So actually the first night was canceled, which was to be expected. These things happen. And so it actually felt quite magical and meant to be, because the second night it was a smaller group of people. And I was able to do a private viewing at Banana Creek, which is, I believe, the closest place that you can view the launch. And it was just really people who were involved in the mission. And I can't tell you what it felt like with everything that's going on the planet right now, to feel this sense of unity and one. Grown men were crying. And it was a reminder of the bigger picture that we're one, we're a human race. And it was, I can't quite explain it. Even just being there in person, the feeling across the water, you could actually feel the force of the spaceship. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Dalia, this is so exciting. Thank you for joining us this morning. We really appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
No worries.